The cold wind howled through the empty streets as the city lights flickered, casting an eerie glow over the mansions lined up along the avenue. On one of those grand estates stood a sprawling, marble mansion, its tall windows reflecting the darkening sky. Inside, the air was thick with tension. Ethan Caldwell, a self-made billionaire in his early 40s, stared out the window of his living room, his hands resting on the cold glass. His thoughts, as usual, were consumed by his work. He had everything he needed: success, wealth, power, but there was something missing. A quiet emptiness lingered in his heart, one that no business deal, no amount of money, could fill. The sound of soft footsteps interrupted his thoughts. A young girl, no older than 7, with braided hair and a worn-out backpack, appeared at the entrance of the mansion. Ethan turned his head, surprised by her presence. She stood at the gate, looking in with curious eyes. Her clothes were old and frayed, and she shivered slightly from the cold. "What do you want?" Ethan asked, his voice tinged with irritation. The girl hesitated, her small voice barely above a whisper. "I want to learn here, at the school. But they won't let me in." The words struck Ethan harder than he expected. The girl's face was a picture of quiet determination, yet there was a sadness in her eyes that resonated with him. He frowned, his first instinct being to brush her off. After all, this was a place for the privileged, not for a child like her. Yet something in her voice, something in the way she looked at him, made him pause. He stepped closer to the gate. "What's your name?" he asked, his tone softening slightly. "Anna," she said, wiping her nose with the back of her hand. "Anna," Ethan repeated, as if tasting the name. The world around him seemed to slow as he looked at the girl. The memories came flooding back, memories of a time long ago, when he too had been just a child, standing at the gates of opportunities that were forever out of reach. He had forgotten what it felt like to want something so badly, only to be denied. "Do you believe in second chances?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The girl nodded, her eyes filled with an unspoken hope. Ethan turned, his thoughts racing. Something had shifted. Something had changed in that brief moment. "Let's see what we can do today," he said, a hint of determination in his voice. It wasn't just the beginning of a new day, it was the beginning of something Ethan never saw coming. Ian stepped out of the mansion's grand doors, his polished shoes tapping against the cold marble as he approached the little girl. Anna stood just outside the gate, clutching her worn backpack tightly to her chest, her head bowed as if she were used to being overlooked. Ethan paused for a moment, taking in the sight of her, a child with hope in her eyes but nothing else to offer in the way of privilege or wealth. He had seen children like her before, children who were told they couldn't enter places like this, who were told they didn't belong. But there was something different about Anna. Something he couldn't quite put his finger on. "So, you want to go to Rose Hill Academy, huh?" he asked, his voice still carrying the faint trace of disbelief. Anna's eyes flicked up to meet his. There was no anger there, no bitterness, only a quiet, humble determination. "Yes," she whispered. "My mom tried to pay the fees, but I guess it wasn't enough." Her voice cracked slightly as she spoke, but she didn't cry. She simply stared at him, waiting for his response. Ethan sighed deeply. The thought of the academy, with its towering gates and polished halls, seemed so far removed from the reality Anna faced. He glanced back toward the entrance of his mansion, the world of privilege that he had worked so hard to build, then back at Anna, who stood before him like an untold story waiting to unfold. "How old are you?" he asked, his voice softening. 7, Anna replied. Her fingers nervously fidgeted with the strap of her backpack. Ethan felt a pang of something deep within him. He had been 7 once. He remembered the feeling of being a child with dreams bigger than the world around him, the excitement of opportunities ahead. But he also remembered the crushing weight of rejection when those opportunities weren't offered. He looked at Anna again, taking in her appearance more closely. She wasn't like the other children he had encountered in his world. She had the worn, tired look of someone who had seen things most children shouldn't. Ethan knelt down to her level, trying to meet her gaze. "Anna, he stopped himself. What could he say? What could he possibly say to make this child feel like she mattered in a world where so many were forgotten? He cleared his throat, trying again. "Do you believe in second chances?" Anna blinked, clearly caught off guard by the question. She nodded slowly, her gaze unwavering. I do, she said, her voice firm and sure. Ethan didn't know what to make of it. Something about her response hit him in a way that none of his business deals ever had. There was an earnestness in her that he couldn't ignore. Then let's see what we can do today, he said, his words slow but full of resolve. He stood up and motioned for her to follow him. Without another word, Anna stepped forward, walking beside him toward the gates. The two of them stood together outside Rose Hill Academy, a place that was meant to represent everything Anna was excluded from. Ethan's heart ached as he thought about the wall of privilege she had faced at the entrance. He couldn't help but wonder how many others like her had been sent away, told that they didn't belong. As they stood there, Anna's hand shifted inside her backpack, and she pulled out a crumpled piece of paper. It was a letter folded and torn at the edges, its ink smudged in places. My grandma wrote me a letter, Anna explained, holding it out to him. She said that one day, things would be better, that I'd find a way to be where I belong. Ethan took the letter carefully, his fingers brushing against the faded paper. For a moment, he simply looked at it, struck by the weight of Anna's words. In her quiet, simple request, he saw not just a child's wish but a hope that transcended the boundaries of wealth and class. Anna had already started to believe in a better future, and now, standing before him, Ethan couldn't help but feel like he had a part to play in that future. His thoughts were interrupted by the sound of approaching footsteps. A couple of teachers from the academy walked past, nodding politely at Ethan, their gazes quickly flickering over to Anna before turning away. The dismissive glance they gave her was so brief, so subtle, but it didn't go unnoticed. Ethan's jaw tightened. He had seen it before, people like him, people who had been taught to turn a blind eye to those who didn't fit into their world. But today, he couldn't turn away. He looked down at Anna, who stood there, unwavering in the face of the world that had told her no. A new resolve began to form inside him. Come on, let's go inside, he said, his voice steady. The guards at the gate opened it without question as Ethan walked through, Anna right beside him. The path ahead was uncertain, but Ethan knew one thing for sure, something had already changed. The first step toward a new beginning had already been taken. As Ethan walked Anna through the gates of Rose Hill Academy, a feeling he hadn't experienced in a long time stirred within him. There was something about her presence, her quiet confidence, that seemed to make the world around them fall into place. He led her across the vast, immaculate grounds, the towering oak trees casting long shadows on the perfectly manicured lawns. The academy stood before them, a symbol of excellence, wealth, and opportunity, but to Anna, it was a distant dream, a dream she had only dared to whisper about. The moment they entered the lobby, the stillness of the space felt almost oppressive. The marble floors gleamed beneath their feet, and the scent of polished wood filled the air. Anna's eyes widened as she took in the surroundings. She had never been inside a place like this, a place where every inch screamed of affluence and privilege. Ethan noticed the slight hesitation in her step. He could tell that despite her outward calm, she was overwhelmed. He gave her a reassuring glance before approaching the front desk. A woman in a sharp suit looked up from her paperwork, her expression unreadable. Mr. Caldwell, she said with a slight nod. How may I assist you? Ethan paused for a moment, then turned to Anna, who was standing a little behind him, still staring at the grandeur around her. This is Anna, he said, his voice steady, but there was a slight warmth to it that caught the receptionist off guard. The woman looked at Anna, then back at Ethan, her brow furrowing slightly. Anna, she repeated, almost as if trying the name on for size. Yes, Mr. Caldwell? Ethan's voice was firm as he spoke. Anna would like to enroll here. There was a brief silence, and the receptionist's eyes flickered with a mixture of surprise and confusion. Mr. Caldwell, I'm sure you know that the admissions process. I'm aware, Ethan interrupted gently, but we're making an exception today. The receptionist opened her mouth to respond, but Ethan raised his hand to stop her. Anna, he turned to her, I'd like you to meet the headmaster of this academy. Let's see what we can do. Anna looked up at him, her expression unreadable. She had been to too many schools before, too many times told that she didn't belong. She had learned to keep her expectations low. She nodded, but there was a flicker of something in her eyes, hope, maybe, but guarded. Ethan guided her down a hallway to a large set of wooden doors. As they approached, they were greeted by a man in his 60s, dressed in a tailored suit. His hair was silver at the temples, and his face was sharp with authority. He stood as they entered, extending a hand toward Ethan. "Mr. Caldwell, it's a pleasure to see you," he said, his voice deep and rich with power. "And who is this?" He looked at Anna with a raised brow, his tone not unkind, but certainly curious. "This is Anna," Ethan replied. "She's here to meet you." The headmaster's eyes briefly lingered on Anna, his expression neutral. He had seen many children come and go, some with potential, others simply filling space. But there was something about Anna, something that made him pause for a second longer than usual. "Of course," the headmaster said finally, his voice smooth. "Please, have a seat." He gestured to a chair across from his desk, and Anna, still standing by Ethan's side, hesitated for a moment before sitting down. The headmaster took his place behind the desk, flipping through a few papers in front of him. "So, Anna," he began, his voice measured, "why do you want to be here?" Anna looked up at him, her gaze unwavering. She could feel her heart racing in her chest, the weight of the question heavy in the air. For a moment, she wasn't sure what to say. She had never been asked why she wanted to be somewhere, only told that she couldn't be there. "I want to learn," she said quietly, her voice firm despite the nerves. "I want to be someone who can help others, like my grandma used to. She always said that the best thing you could do was learn and then use it to help people." The headmaster raised an eyebrow at this. "Your grandmother?" he asked, his curiosity piqued. "What did she do?" Anna's lips curved into a small, sad smile. "She was a housekeeper. She worked for Mr. Caldwell's family." Ethan felt a sharp jolt at the mention of his late mother's housekeeper. His mind briefly flashed to memories of a woman he had once known, kind, humble, but always in the background. He hadn't realized she had left behind a legacy that reached this far. "I see," the headmaster said slowly. He leaned back in his chair, his gaze shifting between Ethan and Anna. "Well, Anna, we typically don't make exceptions in our admissions process." He paused, then added, "But I believe in second chances." Ethan looked at him, his jaw tightening ever so slightly. The headmaster was assessing Anna, and Ethan could see that the wheels were turning in his mind. There was no way Anna was getting in based solely on merit. She didn't belong to the right circles, didn't have the right background. But Ethan's presence, his name, carried weight in this place. He could see that the headmaster was considering it. Anna was right there, waiting for a decision, her fingers nervously clutching the strap of her backpack. The silence hung thick, and Ethan could feel his chest tightening. "I'll make sure she has a chance," he said, his voice low but steady. The headmaster studied him for a moment before nodding slowly. "Very well," he said, "but it won't be easy. This is a place where we expect excellence, and we do not lower our standards." Ethan nodded. "Understood," he replied. He turned to Anna, his eyes meeting hers. "You're not just getting a chance," he said, his voice softening. "You're getting the chance to prove them wrong." Anna blinked, then smiled, just a little. She had heard those words before, but hearing them from Ethan, in this moment, made her believe it was possible. She had always believed she could be more than the world had allowed her to be. Today, for the first time, someone else did too. As the days passed, Anna settled into her new routine at Rose Hill Academy. The transition was anything but easy. The halls, filled with students dressed in crisp uniforms, were a constant reminder of the world she had once believed was out of reach. Every morning, she walked through the grand entrance, her worn backpack a stark contrast to the polished leather bags of her peers. The classrooms, with their state-of-the-art technology and bookshelves lined with rare editions, seemed so different from the cramped, dimly lit spaces she was used to. But Anna was determined. She had come here for a reason, and she wasn't going to let anyone make her feel like she didn't belong. Ethan Caldwell had made sure she had a place, but now it was up to her to prove she deserved it. The first few days were filled with whispers. Some of the students were curious, others were skeptical. They didn't know what to make of the girl who didn't fit in. Anna noticed their glances, the way their eyes flicked over her clothes, her shoes. They were kind enough to her face, but she could feel their judgments lurking beneath the surface. It wasn't long before she realized that fitting in wasn't going to be as simple as showing up. The first real test came during lunch. Anna sat by herself at a table near the window, her tray untouched. She had always been a quiet eater, but today she couldn't help but feel the weight of the stares. A group of girls from her class walked by, their laughter echoing in the cafeteria. One of them, a blonde girl with an air of confidence, glanced at Anna's tray. "Is that all you're eating?" she asked, her voice dripping with condescension. Anna looked down at her lunch. It was simple, just a sandwich and an apple. "Yeah," Anna replied, her voice steady but her hands trembling slightly. The girl's eyes lingered on her for a moment longer than necessary before she smirked and turned away. Anna sat there, staring at her food, trying to push the feeling of shame away. She didn't belong here. Not really. As the days wore on, Anna's isolation grew. She found herself walking the halls alone, sitting at the back of the class, always just outside the circle of the other students. There were moments when she thought about leaving, going back to the place where she knew she was needed. But something kept her going. Every morning, when she woke up and pulled on her uniform, she reminded herself of why she was here. To learn. To prove that she could be more than the world had given her. It wasn't until one rainy afternoon that things began to shift. The school had scheduled a field trip to a local museum, and Anna, as always, was the last to be picked for a group. She found herself standing alone in the corner, watching as the other students paired up. Ethan had tried to reassure her, telling her that it would get easier. "Just give it time," he had said. But time wasn't enough. Time didn't change the way she felt when she was overlooked, when she was the one left behind. As the bus pulled up to the museum, a voice called out to her. It was Ethan. He had been attending a meeting with the school's board but had come to join the trip unexpectedly. He caught her eye as he walked toward her, and for the first time in days, Anna's heart lifted a little. "You're not alone," Ethan said with a smile, his hand resting lightly on her shoulder. "Come on, I've got a spot saved for you." The words hit Anna like a wave. For the first time since she had walked through those gates, she felt like she was truly seen. The museum was filled with ancient artifacts and paintings, each piece telling a story of a time long past. As Anna wandered through the exhibits, she found herself captivated by a painting of a young girl, much like herself, staring out at the world with quiet determination. The caption beneath the painting read, "The strength of those who have been forgotten." Anna stood there for a moment, lost in the image. It was as if the girl in the painting was looking right at her, reminding her that she was not invisible. She was not forgotten. As they moved to the next exhibit, Anna's hand brushed Ethan's, and for a brief moment, she felt a sense of belonging. It wasn't much, but it was enough to keep her going. That evening, as they returned to the academy, Anna found herself walking with a new sense of confidence. The world may have tried to tell her that she didn't belong, but she knew better now. She wasn't just a child from the wrong side of the tracks. She was Anna, someone who had the power to change her future. As the rain continued to fall around them, Anna glanced up at Ethan, who was walking beside her. She smiled to herself. Maybe this was only the beginning, but it was a start. A start towards something she had always believed was impossible, a chance to prove herself, and maybe, just maybe, to show everyone else that they were wrong. The days following the field trip to the museum felt like a turning point for Anna. Each morning she walked through the gates of Rose Hill Academy with a little more confidence. The other students were beginning to notice her, not just as the girl who didn't belong, but as someone who had earned her place there. The whispers had lessened, the stares had faded, and though she wasn't fully embraced, she wasn't an outsider anymore. Ethan Caldwell, despite his busy schedule, made sure to check in on her every day, always offering a kind word, a small gesture of encouragement. He could see the change in her, how she was beginning to believe that she deserved to be here. One afternoon, as Anna sat in the school's garden during a break between classes, she watched as the other students gathered in groups, chatting and laughing. It had taken her a while to adjust to the loneliness, but today she felt different. She was no longer staring at them from the sidelines, wishing she could be part of their world. She had found a quiet corner for herself, and for the first time, it felt like enough. She wasn't invisible. She wasn't the same girl who had walked through the gates that first day, unsure of herself. She had grown, slowly but surely, and she was starting to realize that she didn't need to be like anyone else to fit in. But the real test came when she returned to class that afternoon. The students were working on a group project, and as the teacher assigned the groups, Anna felt a familiar knot in her stomach. She was used to being the last one picked, the one left out. But today, it was different. One of the girls from her class, a tall girl named Claire, walked over to her. "Hey, Anna," Claire said, her tone unexpectedly friendly. "Want to join our group?" Anna blinked, taken aback. For a moment, she wasn't sure if she had heard right. Claire was one of the girls who had once looked at her with condescension, and now she was asking her to join the project. Anna's heart skipped a beat. "You want me to join your group?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Yeah," Claire said with a shrug, "we're doing the project on the history of the academy, and you seem to know a lot about it. Plus, I think it'd be fun to have you on our team." Anna hesitated. She had learned to be wary of people who were too kind, but there was something in Claire's eyes that told her this wasn't just a charity case. Anna nodded slowly, a smile tugging at the corners of her lips. "I'd like that." The rest of the group greeted her with surprising warmth. As they worked together, Anna found herself contributing ideas, her voice no longer hidden behind the wall of self-doubt she had carried for so long. The other students listened to her, asked her opinions, and treated her as an equal. It was a small moment, but it was a victory for Anna. It was proof that she wasn't just a token student in the school, she was a valuable member of the community. By the time the project was due, Anna had made real friends, the kind of friends who didn't care about her past, her clothes, or her background. They cared about who she was now, about the person she was becoming. When the project was presented to the class, Anna stood at the front with Claire and the others, her heart pounding in her chest. But this time, the nerves were different. This time, she wasn't afraid to speak, to share what she knew, to take her place in front of everyone. She spoke clearly, her voice steady, and when they finished, the class erupted into applause. It wasn't just a success for the project, it was a personal victory for Anna. As she sat back down, a sense of pride washed over her. She had earned this moment. She had worked for it. And it was only the beginning. That evening, as she sat in her small room at the academy, looking out at the stars through the window, Anna felt a sense of peace that had eluded her for so long. She wasn't the same girl who had stepped onto the campus weeks ago, unsure of herself and unsure of her place in the world. She had found her voice, and she was no longer afraid to use it. Ethan had given her the chance to prove herself, but it was her determination, her belief in herself, that had carried her this far. She knew the road ahead wouldn't always be easy. There would be days when the doubts crept back in, when the world seemed too big and too overwhelming. But for the first time in her life, Anna knew she had the strength to keep going. And she would. No matter what. The next few weeks passed quickly, and Anna's life at Rose Hill Academy began to settle into a new rhythm. The whispers that once followed her had mostly disappeared, replaced by an odd sense of normalcy. She was no longer the girl who didn't belong, the outsider standing at the edge of the crowd. She had found her place, slowly but surely. The friends she had made, especially Claire and the other students in her group, had welcomed her in a way that felt genuine. They shared lunch together, studied together, and laughed together. Anna had become part of something she had never thought possible. Still, there were moments when the weight of her past seemed to creep in, reminding her of where she had come from. Her mother's struggles, the nights spent in shelters, the constant fight to make ends meet, those memories were never too far away. But every day at Rose Hill, Anna felt a little more like a different person. One afternoon, as she was walking across the school grounds after classes, she noticed a familiar figure standing near the entrance. It was Ethan. He had been busy with work, but it wasn't unusual for him to stop by the academy now and then to check in on her. But today, there was something different about the way he stood, his hands in his pockets, looking up at the grand building before him. Anna approached him cautiously. "Hey, Mr. Caldwell," she said, her voice breaking the stillness of the moment. Ethan turned toward her, a small smile forming on his lips. "Anna," he greeted her warmly. There was a brief pause, and then he spoke again, his tone more serious. "I wanted to talk to you about something." Anna raised an eyebrow, her curiosity piqued. "What's up?" Ethan hesitated for a moment, then took a deep breath. "I've been thinking about how far you've come. When I first met you, you were unsure of your place here. But now," he paused, looking at her with pride. "You've proven that you belong here. But there's something else I want to discuss." Anna frowned slightly. "What do you mean?" she asked. Ethan shifted on his feet, glancing at the building again before meeting her eyes. "I think it's time for you to have more than just a place at Rose Hill. I want to help you get the education you deserve. And not just that, I want to help you achieve whatever you dream of. I think you have the potential to do something truly amazing, Anna." His words caught Anna off guard. She had never imagined someone would offer her such a chance, especially not someone with as much power and wealth as Ethan Caldwell. The idea of having opportunities beyond what she had ever dreamed of was overwhelming. I don't know what to say," Anna stammered, her mind racing. "You don't have to say anything right now," Ethan said, his tone gentle. "But I want you to think about it. You don't have to stay stuck in the past. There's a future waiting for you, and I'll be here to help you get there." Anna felt a lump form in her throat. She had never been given a chance like this before, and the weight of Ethan's words pressed down on her. "I've always wanted to do something more," she said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I didn't think it was possible." Ethan smiled, his eyes warm. "It's possible, Anna. It always has been. And I'm not the only one who believes in you." For the first time in a long while, Anna felt a surge of hope. She had spent so much of her life just trying to survive, never thinking about the future, never imagining that she could have more. But now, as she stood there with Ethan, she realized that anything was possible. She didn't have to be defined by where she came from or the struggles she had faced. She had the power to create her own future. As the conversation came to a close, Ethan offered her a reassuring smile. "I'll make sure you have the resources you need," he said. "But ultimately, it's up to you. You've already shown me what you're capable of. The rest is in your hands." Anna nodded, her heart full. She felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude, but more than that, she felt empowered. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, there would be challenges, there would be doubts, but for the first time, Anna believed she could face them. She wasn't just a girl from a broken past anymore. She was someone who had been given the chance to rewrite her story. As she walked away from Ethan, heading toward the dormitory, she couldn't help but smile. For the first time in her life, she felt truly seen, truly valued. And the future, once so uncertain, now felt like a world full of possibilities. The following weeks were transformative for Anna. She had never imagined that someone like Ethan Caldwell would truly invest in her future, but his promise had unlocked something deep within her. Every day, she found herself waking up with a new sense of purpose. She was no longer the girl who lived in the shadows, quietly wishing for a better life. She was now part of a world where doors were opening for her, doors she had never dared to dream of. Ethan's support was invaluable, but Anna knew that it was her own determination that would drive her forward. Her classmates, once skeptical, had begun to accept her, and many had come to respect her for her intelligence, her quiet strength, and her unwavering belief in herself. One morning, after a particularly challenging test, Anna walked out of the classroom, feeling a mix of pride and exhaustion. She had studied hard for the test, spending hours after school with books scattered across her small desk in her dorm room. As she reached the courtyard, she was greeted by Claire, who waved excitedly from across the walkway. Anna smiled and waved back. Claire had become one of her closest friends, and they often studied together in the evenings, sharing both schoolwork and stories about their lives. As Claire approached, she could see the wide grin on her face. "You did great, didn't you?" Claire asked, her voice bubbling with enthusiasm. "I don't know," Anna replied, trying to hide her smile. "I think I did okay. But I'm still not sure if I passed." Come on, Claire laughed. You've got this. You're the smartest person in this class. I'm sure you aced it. Anna's heart warmed at Claire's words. She had always been the quiet one, the one who kept to herself, but now, she was starting to believe in her own abilities. As they walked across the campus, Anna's mind wandered back to the day she had first arrived at Rose Hill. Back then, she had been filled with uncertainty and fear. She had been out of place, a fish in a foreign pond. But now, she was beginning to feel like she belonged. She had a future to look forward to, and she was no longer afraid of it. Later that afternoon, Ethan asked her to meet him in his office. Anna was a little nervous, she wasn't sure what to expect. When she arrived, she found him sitting behind his desk, reviewing papers. He looked up and smiled warmly when she entered. Anna, come in. I'm glad you're here, he said, motioning to the chair across from him. Anna sat down, her hands clasped in her lap. She felt the usual flutter of nerves in her chest, but she had learned to manage it over the past few weeks. Ethan studied her for a moment before speaking. I've been thinking about how far you've come, he began, his tone serious but kind. When I first met you, I knew you had potential, but you've exceeded my expectations. You've worked harder than anyone I've seen in a long time, and I believe you're ready for the next step. Anna's heart skipped a beat. She wasn't sure what he meant, but she could feel the weight of his words. What do you mean? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. Ethan leaned forward slightly, his expression thoughtful. I want to offer you an opportunity. I've been talking with some of the faculty here, and I think it's time for you to start considering scholarships to some of the top universities in the country. You're more than capable of earning one, Anna, and I want to help you get there. Anna's mind raced. Scholarships? Top universities? She had never imagined that something like that could be within her reach. It seemed too big, too far removed from the life she had known. But Ethan's confidence in her was clear, and for the first time, she began to wonder if maybe, just maybe, she was ready for it. Are you sure? She asked, her voice shaky. I mean, I'm just me. I don't come from money, and I'm not. You are exactly who you need to be, Ethan interrupted gently. Your background doesn't define you. What matters is your drive, your intelligence, and your heart. You've shown all of those qualities in abundance, and that's what will get you to where you want to be. His words were like a weight being lifted off her shoulders. Anna had spent so much of her life feeling like she wasn't enough, like she wasn't worthy of the opportunities others had. But now, sitting across from Ethan, she realized that her worth wasn't determined by where she came from, it was determined by what she was willing to do with the chances she was given. I'll help you apply, Ethan continued, his voice reassuring. I'll guide you through the process. But the rest is up to you. I know you can do it. Anna felt a tear slip down her cheek, but it wasn't from sadness. It was from a sense of relief, from the overwhelming realization that she had the chance to change her life. She had always believed in the possibility of a better future, but now, for the first time, she was beginning to see that future come to life. She took a deep breath, wiped her tear away, and looked up at Ethan. Thank you, she said quietly, her voice filled with gratitude. Ethan smiled, his eyes soft with understanding. You've earned it, Anna. You've earned every bit of it. As she left his office, Anna's mind was swirling with possibilities. The road ahead was still uncertain, but one thing was clear, she wasn't going to stop now. She had a chance, and she was going to take it. For the first time, she felt like she had a real future, one that was hers to create. And with Ethan's support, she knew there was nothing she couldn't achieve. As Anna stood on the steps of Rose Hill Academy, the weight of Ethan's words still echoed in her mind. It had been a week since their conversation about applying for scholarships to top universities, and every day since had been a whirlwind of emotions and preparations. The chance Ethan had given her felt surreal. Her life had always been defined by struggle, by a constant fight for something better, but now, for the first time, the possibility of something bigger seemed real. The path ahead was still uncertain, and Anna wasn't sure where it would lead. But one thing was clear, she wasn't going to let fear or doubt hold her back. She had to try. As the days passed, Anna worked tirelessly on her applications. She spent late nights in the library, poring over essays, gathering recommendations, and refining her personal statement. It wasn't easy. There were moments when she felt overwhelmed, moments when the pressure seemed too much to handle. But every time she doubted herself, she remembered the promise she had made to Ethan, to herself, to push forward, no matter the obstacles. It was on one of these late nights that Anna received a message from Ethan. He had been keeping tabs on her progress, offering guidance when needed, but tonight's message felt different. "Anna," it began, "I know this is hard, but I want you to remember something. You're not alone in this. You've already proven so much, not just to the world, but to yourself. I'm here if you need anything. Don't give up." His words, simple but powerful, brought a sense of peace to Anna's heart. She had come so far, and yet it felt like the real test was just beginning. The next few weeks were filled with anticipation. Anna received her acceptance letter from one of the universities she had applied to, an Ivy League school. The moment she held the letter in her hands, she felt like she had just unlocked the door to a world she had only dreamed of. It wasn't just a letter, it was a confirmation that all of her hard work, all of her sacrifices, had been worth it. She couldn't believe it. It took her a few moments to gather her thoughts before she sent Ethan a message, her fingers trembling slightly as she typed. "I got in. I really got in." The reply came almost immediately. "I knew you could do it, Anna. I'm proud of you." Anna smiled as she read his words. She knew Ethan was proud of her, but hearing it from him still meant the world. She had always struggled to believe in herself, to see her own worth, but Ethan had been the first person to believe in her when she couldn't believe in herself. And now, she had the opportunity to prove just how much she had grown. That evening, after receiving the acceptance letter, Anna sat alone in her room, staring out the window at the city lights in the distance. It was hard to process what had just happened. She had made it. She had earned her place in a world she had once thought was out of reach. But it wasn't just about the university acceptance. It was about the person she had become. The little girl who had once hidden behind her fear and self-doubt was gone. In her place stood a young woman, confident in her abilities, determined to make the most of the opportunities she had been given. Ethan had given her the chance to rewrite her story, but it was her own courage that had gotten her this far. As Anna prepared for the next chapter of her life, she realized that her journey was far from over. She still had challenges ahead, but for the first time, she didn't feel like she was facing them alone. She had friends, she had support, and most importantly, she had herself. The road ahead was uncertain, but Anna was ready to walk it. With the letter in her hand and her heart full of hope, she knew that anything was possible. And as the days turned into weeks, she began to see that this was just the beginning of a new chapter, one where the possibilities were limitless, and the future was hers to create. As the weeks went by, Anna's life continued to transform in ways she had never expected. The letter from the Ivy League university had changed everything. It wasn't just an acceptance letter, it was a symbol of all the hard work, the tears, the late nights of study, and the years of doubt she had carried with her. It was proof that her past did not define her. She had made it. The day after receiving the acceptance letter, Anna met with Ethan at his office. She had barely been able to sleep the night before, her mind racing with excitement, fear, and a strange sense of disbelief. As she walked through the sleek, polished hallways of the Caldwell mansion, she couldn't help but think about how far she had come. From the girl who had lived on the streets, unsure of her place in the world, to the young woman standing on the threshold of a future she had once thought impossible. Ethan greeted her with a warm smile as she entered his office. "Anna," he said, standing up from his desk. "It's good to see you. How are you feeling?" Anna smiled back, her heart still racing with the excitement of her news. I'm still trying to process it," she admitted, her voice full of awe. "It's just so unreal." Ethan nodded, his expression kind and understanding. "I get it. This is a huge step, but I have no doubt you've earned it. You've worked so hard, and you've proven to everyone, especially to yourself, that you belong in this world." Anna felt a lump form in her throat at his words. She had always struggled with believing in herself, but Ethan had been there every step of the way, reminding her of her worth, even when she couldn't see it. "Thank you," she said softly. "I couldn't have done it without you." Ethan gave her a reassuring smile. "You did all the work, Anna. I'm just here to help guide you when you need it. But the real credit goes to you." They talked for a few more minutes, discussing the next steps in her preparations for college. Ethan was helping her navigate the paperwork and logistical details, making sure she had everything she needed to start this new chapter of her life. As the meeting ended, Anna stood up, feeling a new sense of determination. She wasn't just walking into college with a scholarship, she was walking in as someone who had earned her place. As she left Ethan's office, she couldn't help but think about how much had changed in just a few short months. She had gone from a girl who was invisible, from a background that had tried to keep her down, to a young woman with a future full of possibility. But it wasn't just the scholarship or the acceptance letter that had changed her, it was the belief that she could do anything she set her mind to. That evening, after her meeting with Ethan, Anna walked through the campus grounds, taking in the familiar sights of Rose Hill Academy. The towering oak trees, the grand buildings, and the peaceful gardens that she had once felt so out of place in. Now, they felt like home. As she passed by the main courtyard, she spotted Claire sitting on one of the benches, her phone in hand. When Claire saw Anna, she smiled and waved. "Hey, you," she called out. Anna walked over and sat down next to her. "Hey," she replied, her voice light. "How's it going?" "Good," Claire said. "I heard the news." "You got in, huh?" Anna grinned. "Yeah, I did." Claire's eyes widened. "That's amazing. I knew you would, but it's still so exciting." Anna laughed. "It feels unreal, to be honest. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it." Claire gave her a playful nudge. "You deserve it, Anna. You've worked so hard. And I'm really proud of you." Anna's heart swelled with gratitude. She had never had friends like Claire, friends who genuinely cared about her and supported her every step of the way. "Thanks, Claire. That means a lot," Anna said. As they sat there, talking and laughing about everything and nothing, Anna realized that this was just the beginning of her new life. She wasn't just leaving behind her past, she was moving forward into a future that was hers to shape. The road ahead would still have its challenges, but she knew she had the strength to face them. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the campus, Anna felt a sense of peace wash over her. She had made it this far, and she wasn't going to stop now. She had worked for this moment, and she was going to make the most of every opportunity that came her way. For the first time in her life, Anna truly believed that she had the power to change her destiny. And nothing, no one, could take that away from her. As the weeks passed, Anna's life continued to change in ways she never thought possible. The excitement of her acceptance to one of the top universities in the country was still fresh in her mind, but now there was something else on the horizon, something that felt even more significant. The day she had received the scholarship offer had been a turning point, but it was what came next that would truly test her. It was the beginning of the end of her time at Rose Hill Academy. As much as she had grown to love the place, the day was fast approaching when she would have to leave, to begin her next chapter, and it felt both thrilling and terrifying at the same time. Ethan had been incredibly supportive throughout the process, but Anna knew that once she left, things would never be the same. The night before her final exam, she sat alone in her dorm room, surrounded by textbooks and notes. She had been preparing for weeks, and the pressure of the upcoming test was starting to weigh on her. It was a big part of her final grade, and she couldn't afford to fail, not now, not after everything she had worked for. As she stared at the pages in front of her, she began to feel the familiar knot of anxiety twist in her stomach. Would she be able to keep up with the high expectations? Would she be able to succeed at the next level? Her phone buzzed, breaking the silence in the room. It was a message from Claire. "You've got this, Anna. Don't stress. You've worked so hard and you're ready. Just take a deep breath and do your best. We all believe in you." Anna smiled at the message. Claire's words were always just what she needed to hear, especially in moments like this. Claire had been there with her every step of the way, supporting her, encouraging her, and pushing her to believe in herself. Anna hadn't known what true friendship was until she had met Claire. With a deep breath, Anna put the phone down and returned to her studies. The hours passed in a blur, and before she knew it, the night had turned into morning. She felt exhausted but resolute. She wasn't going to let her nerves get the best of her. The morning of the exam, Anna woke up early, feeling both nervous and excited. The test would determine her final grades, but she was determined to face it head-on. As she sat down at her desk in the classroom, her heart was racing. The room was filled with students, but Anna felt like she was in a world of her own, her thoughts spinning as the clock ticked down. She glanced over at Claire, who gave her a reassuring smile. The teacher handed out the exam papers, and Anna took a deep breath, focusing all of her energy on the task at hand. The questions were tough, but Anna took her time, remembering all the late nights she had spent studying, all the notes she had reviewed, and all the lessons she had learned along the way. She didn't let the pressure of the moment overwhelm her. When the exam was finally over, Anna felt a sense of relief wash over her. She had done her best. Now, all she could do was wait. As the days went by, Anna focused on her remaining tasks, finishing up projects, preparing for graduation, and saying goodbye to the friends she had made during her time at Rose Hill. It was bittersweet. She was excited for the future, but leaving behind the place that had become her home felt like a chapter closing. On the day of graduation, Anna stood with her classmates in the grand hall, her heart full of gratitude and pride. She looked around at the faces of the students who had once looked down on her, now offering smiles and congratulations. There was no bitterness, only a quiet satisfaction that she had made it. Ethan stood at the back of the room, watching as Anna walked across the stage to receive her diploma. His smile was warm, full of pride for the young woman who had defied all the odds and made something incredible of herself. As she shook hands with the headmaster and received her diploma, Anna felt a sense of closure. She had come so far, from the girl who didn't believe in herself to the young woman standing here, ready to face the world. The applause echoed in her ears, but all she could think about was how far she had come, how much she had grown. As she stepped down from the stage, Ethan approached her, his eyes shining with pride. "You did it, Anna," he said, his voice filled with emotion. "You really did it." Anna smiled, her eyes brimming with tears. "I couldn't have done it without you, Ethan. You believed in me when I couldn't believe in myself." Ethan placed a hand on her shoulder. "You always had it in you, Anna. I'm just glad I could help you see that." As the ceremony ended and the students began to file out, Anna took a moment to look around, taking in the faces of the people who had been part of her journey. They weren't just her classmates or teachers, they were the people who had helped shape her into the person she was today. And as she walked out into the sunlight, ready to face the next chapter of her life, Anna knew that the best was yet to come. As Anna stood at the threshold of the future, her heart raced with excitement and a touch of nervousness. Graduation was over, and she had accomplished what seemed like the impossible. She had walked across that stage, received her diploma, and was now on the verge of stepping into the next chapter of her life. The scholarship had opened doors for her that she had never imagined. The acceptance letter from the Ivy League school had not only been a victory for her but a clear signal to everyone around her that she was more than capable of succeeding. Still, even as she stood there with her diploma in hand, Anna couldn't help but reflect on the path that had brought her to this moment. She thought about the years spent struggling, the nights spent hungry or cold, the times she had doubted herself and wondered if she would ever escape her circumstances. But all of that had changed. She had found her way to Rose Hill Academy, and there, she had found not just an education but a family, people who had believed in her even when she couldn't believe in herself. Ethan Caldwell, the man who had first given her a chance, had been there every step of the way, guiding her, offering encouragement, and always reminding her of her worth. He had become a father figure to her, someone who had given her the support she needed to thrive. But now, as Anna prepared to leave Rose Hill and head off to college, she realized that the time had come for her to stand on her own. She wasn't just a girl who had been given a second chance, she was a young woman with a future ahead of her, a future she had earned. The days that followed graduation were a whirlwind of packing, farewells, and last-minute preparations. As Anna packed her things, she felt a mixture of emotions: excitement for the next chapter, sadness at leaving behind the place that had become her home, and a deep sense of gratitude. She had made lasting friendships, but she had also made peace with her past. The girl who had walked through the gates of Rose Hill Academy was no longer the same girl who was now preparing to leave. Ethan had made it clear that he would always be there for her, but Anna knew that the time had come for her to forge her own path. The day she left Rose Hill, she met Ethan one last time at the mansion. He had become like a second father to her, and saying goodbye wasn't easy. As she stood on the porch, ready to leave for the airport, Ethan handed her an envelope. "This is for you," he said, his voice soft. "It's not much, but I want you to have it." Anna took the envelope and opened it. Inside, she found a check, along with a note that read, "For your first year. I know you've got this. Never forget how far you've come." Anna felt a lump form in her throat. Ethan had always believed in her, and this gesture was just another reminder that he was there, even as she stepped out into the world on her own. She hugged him tightly, tears welling in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. "I'll never forget you." Ethan hugged her back, his voice gruff with emotion. "You don't need to thank me. You've earned everything you've achieved. Just promise me one thing: never stop believing in yourself." Anna nodded, the weight of his words settling deep in her heart. As she drove away from the mansion, leaving the place that had given her so much, she felt a bittersweet mixture of excitement and sadness. She was leaving behind the world that had helped shape her, but she was also moving forward to create a new world for herself. The airport was bustling with people, and as Anna walked through the terminals, she felt a sense of peace. This was the beginning of something new, a new life that she was ready to embrace with both hands. She had a future now, one that was hers to create. The plane ride to college was long, and Anna found herself lost in thought. She thought about the friends she had made at Rose Hill, the way they had supported her through every challenge, and how she had finally found her place in the world. She thought about Ethan and how his belief in her had made all the difference. But most of all, she thought about the girl she had been when she first arrived at Rose Hill. That girl had been unsure, scared, and lost. The girl who was now on the plane to college was strong, confident, and ready to face whatever challenges came her way. By the time the plane touched down, Anna had made a promise to herself: she would never let fear hold her back again. She would work hard, push through the obstacles, and always keep moving forward. This was just the beginning of her journey. The future was waiting for her, and she was ready to step into it with open arms. The transition to college was harder than Anna had expected. As the days passed, she began to realize that the life she had left behind at Rose Hill Academy was a world apart from the reality of university life. The bustling campus, filled with students from all walks of life, was a mix of excitement and overwhelming uncertainty. The sheer size of the university was intimidating. The buildings were enormous, the classrooms crowded, and every corner seemed filled with people who had their own place, their own story. Anna often found herself wandering the campus, unsure of where to go or who to turn to. She missed the structure of Rose Hill, the familiar faces, and the comfort of Ethan's constant presence. Still, she couldn't deny the excitement bubbling inside her. She had worked so hard to get here, and now she was living the life she had always dreamed of. But with the excitement came an undeniable loneliness. Anna struggled to make connections with her new peers. They seemed to have their own circles, their own friends, and Anna was left feeling like an outsider again. The friendship she had built at Rose Hill felt far away, and even though she tried to reach out to some of the students in her classes, she couldn't shake the feeling that she didn't quite fit in. She spent most of her days buried in her studies, focusing on her coursework, determined not to let herself fall behind. But the loneliness began to wear on her. It was a Friday afternoon when things started to change. Anna had just finished a long week of classes, and instead of heading back to her dorm, she found herself sitting alone at a small cafe on campus, nursing a cup of coffee. Her thoughts were a mixture of doubt and determination. Was she really meant to be here? Did she belong? As she sat there, lost in her thoughts, she was interrupted by a voice. "Mind if I join you?" Anna looked up, startled. A young man with dark hair and a friendly smile stood before her, holding a coffee cup in his hand. He looked around for a moment before sitting down across from her without waiting for an answer. "I'm Luke," he said, offering a handshake. "I've seen you around, and I figured you looked like you could use some company." Anna hesitated for a moment, unsure of how to respond. She wasn't used to being approached like this. She had always been the one to stand at the sidelines, to wait for others to reach out. But there was something about Luke's easygoing demeanor that made her relax. "I'm Anna," she replied, shaking his hand. "Thanks for stopping by." Luke smiled. "No problem. I know what it's like to feel lost in a big place like this. It took me a while to find my footing, too." Anna was taken aback. "Really?" she asked. "But you seem so confident." Luke shrugged. "It's all an act," he said with a wink. "But I'm getting the hang of it." The conversation flowed easily after that. Luke shared his experience of adjusting to college life, and Anna found herself opening up in a way she hadn't expected. For the first time since arriving on campus, she didn't feel like an outsider. Luke wasn't judgmental, and he didn't look at her with the skepticism she had felt from some of her peers. He genuinely seemed interested in who she was and how she was adjusting to everything. Over the next few weeks, Luke and Anna spent more time together. They studied together, grabbed lunch, and even worked on group projects. Slowly but surely, Anna began to feel a sense of belonging. She still missed Rose Hill and the support she had there, but with Luke's friendship, she started to realize that she didn't need to face this new world alone. The loneliness that had consumed her at the start of her college journey began to fade, replaced with a sense of connection and hope. But there was still one thing on her mind: what if she wasn't good enough for this place? What if her past, her background, was always going to hold her back? One night, as they were studying together in the library, Anna brought it up. "Sometimes I feel like I'm not cut out for this," she admitted, her voice low. "Like I'm not as good as everyone else here." Luke looked at her, his brow furrowing slightly. "Why would you think that?" Anna shrugged, her fingers tracing the edge of her notebook. "I don't know. I just feel like I don't fit in. Like I'm different from everyone else." Luke set down his pen and leaned forward, his eyes serious. "Anna, listen to me. You belong here. You earned your place, and don't let anyone, especially yourself, tell you otherwise." His words were simple, but they hit Anna harder than she expected. She had spent so much time doubting herself, wondering if she had what it took to succeed. But in that moment, looking at Luke, she realized that maybe, just maybe, she had been underestimating herself all along. The next day, Anna woke up with a renewed sense of purpose. She wasn't going to let her past define her. She wasn't going to let the doubts hold her back. She had made it this far, and she wasn't going to stop now. Her college journey was just beginning, and for the first time, Anna felt ready to face it, no matter what came her way. The semester continued to pass in a blur of classes, assignments, and new experiences, but for Anna, something had shifted. The loneliness that had once defined her college life was now replaced with a quiet confidence. Her friendship with Luke had grown stronger, and with his encouragement, Anna felt like she was finally starting to belong. She was no longer the outsider in this sea of unfamiliar faces. Slowly, she was becoming part of the community, contributing in her own way and finding herself at ease in a world that had once seemed so intimidating. Still, despite the progress she had made, there was a feeling that gnawed at her from time to time, an old fear that would resurface when things got difficult. It was the fear that no matter how much she had achieved, it would never be enough. That she would always be different, always be the girl who didn't truly belong. It wasn't something she would admit easily, not even to Luke, but it was there, lurking in the background of her mind. As midterms approached, Anna found herself studying late into the night. Her desk was piled high with textbooks, notes, and the remnants of several cups of coffee. She had always been diligent, but now there was an added pressure. The scholarship, the expectations, the promise she had made to herself, it all weighed on her. She needed to prove to herself, to everyone around her, that she was worthy of the opportunity she had been given. That night, as she flipped through her study materials, she felt the familiar knot in her stomach tighten. The thoughts of doubt crept back in, threatening to overwhelm her. What if she wasn't good enough? What if she couldn't live up to the standards set by everyone around her? The thought was almost suffocating. She had come so far, but now that she was here, she realized that the real challenge was learning to believe in her own worth. She needed something, or someone, to remind her that she wasn't alone. It was in that moment of doubt that her phone buzzed. The notification was from Luke. "Hey, you doing okay?" the message read. Anna stared at the screen for a moment, unsure of how to respond. She didn't want to burden him with her fears. But then she realized that Luke had been there for her from the start. He had always supported her, even when she didn't believe in herself. So, with a deep breath, she typed her response. "I don't know, Luke. I feel like I'm just barely holding it all together." Almost immediately, he replied. "You're doing great. I see how hard you work, Anna. You've come a long way, and you should be proud of everything you've accomplished. But don't forget, you don't have to do it all alone. I'm here for you, just like I've always been." His words hit her harder than she expected. She sat there for a moment, letting them sink in. She didn't have to carry the weight of everything on her own. The fear, the doubt, it didn't have to define her. And she didn't have to face it alone. Anna wiped her eyes, suddenly feeling lighter. She realized then that she had spent so much time trying to prove herself to others, to earn their approval, that she had neglected the most important person of all, herself. She had already proven enough. She didn't need to keep running to catch up with the expectations of others. She only needed to be true to herself. The next day, Anna entered the library with a new sense of resolve. She had her books, her notes, but most importantly, she had a new perspective. The test wasn't just another hurdle to overcome, it was an opportunity to show herself how far she had come. She didn't need to be perfect, she didn't need to be the best, she just needed to be Anna. That afternoon, as Anna sat at her usual spot in the library, Luke found her. He smiled and waved before sitting down next to her, looking over her notes. "Ready for the midterm?" he asked, his usual playful tone making her smile. "I think so," Anna replied, feeling a calm that had been missing before. She looked at Luke, her best friend, and realized how much she had grown. She had faced so many challenges, overcome so many obstacles, and yet here she was, still standing. "Thanks, Luke," she said quietly, her voice full of gratitude. "For everything. I don't think I could have done any of this without you." Luke gave her a grin. "Don't mention it. We're in this together." As the days passed, Anna felt a sense of peace she hadn't known before. She knew there would always be challenges, but she also knew that she could face them. The fear of not being enough was still there, but it no longer controlled her. She had built a life for herself, and she was proud of everything she had achieved. When midterms finally arrived, Anna approached them with a calm confidence. She didn't expect perfection, but she knew she had put in the work, and that was all that mattered. After the exam, she left the classroom with a sense of relief. She had done her best, and that was enough. Later that week, when the grades were posted, Anna saw that she had passed with flying colors. She smiled to herself, but it wasn't just about the grade. It was about the realization that she was capable of more than she had ever given herself credit for. As she walked across the campus that afternoon, she looked up at the sky and felt a surge of gratitude. The future, once so uncertain, now felt full of possibility. She had made it this far, and there was no stopping her now. As Anna continued her journey through college, the realization that she had truly transformed began to settle in. The self-doubt that had once weighed her down no longer controlled her. She had proved herself in ways she never thought possible, not only to others but most importantly to herself. Every day, she faced challenges that tested her, but with each challenge came growth. The loneliness that had once haunted her had been replaced by new friendships, and her academic success was a testament to her hard work and resilience. Luke had been by her side through it all, a constant source of support, but as the semester continued, Anna knew she had to learn to rely on herself more. The pressure of keeping up with her studies, staying involved in campus life, and preparing for her future plans felt overwhelming at times, but she was no longer the same girl who doubted her worth. As the fall semester began to wind down, Anna received an unexpected email. It was an invitation to apply for an internship with a prestigious company, one that could give her a head start in her career. She stared at the email for a few moments, unsure if it was real. It seemed too good to be true. This was an opportunity she had dreamed of, something that could open doors and set her on a path to success. But as she read the email again, doubt crept in. Was she ready for something like this? Was she truly prepared to take on such a big challenge? She thought back to everything she had learned so far. The late nights studying, the challenges she had faced, the belief she had fought to build in herself. She realized that this was the moment she had been waiting for, an opportunity to step into the future she had been working so hard to create. With a deep breath, Anna clicked the reply button. She wrote her application with the same determination that had gotten her this far, pouring everything she had learned about herself into the words. She hit send and leaned back in her chair, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. The waiting was the hardest part. Days turned into weeks, and Anna continued to focus on her studies, but the anticipation of the internship weighed heavily on her mind. She was determined not to let the uncertainty distract her. She was on a new path now, one that she had created for herself. Then, one afternoon, as Anna was walking to class, her phone buzzed with a new notification. She pulled it out, her heart racing as she saw the subject of the email. It was from the company. She opened it, barely able to breathe as she scanned the message. Congratulations, Anna. We are pleased to inform you that you have been selected for the internship position. Her heart skipped a beat. The words seemed to blur together as she read them again. She had gotten the internship. It wasn't just a dream anymore, it was real. Her phone slipped from her hands, and she had to steady herself against the wall of the building. It felt like everything had led to this moment. All the years of struggle, the sacrifices, the doubt, it was all worth it. She had earned this. As the initial shock wore off, Anna felt a wave of pride wash over her. She had fought hard to get to this point, and now, this opportunity was hers. She took a deep breath and sent a quick text to Luke, letting him know the good news. She knew he would be just as excited as she was. Luke's response came almost immediately. I knew you had it in you. This is just the beginning, Anna. You're going to do amazing things. His words filled her with even more confidence. She wasn't alone in this journey. She had the support of the people who cared about her, who believed in her when she couldn't believe in herself. As Anna walked to class, her mind was buzzing with possibilities. She was about to embark on a new chapter of her life, one that would push her even further, challenge her in ways she had never imagined. She wasn't just a girl who had been given a second chance, she was a young woman with a future she had created with her own hands. And now, with this internship opportunity, she was taking the next step. Anna knew that there would be challenges ahead, but for the first time in her life, she felt ready for them. She was no longer the girl who questioned her worth. She was someone who had learned to embrace every part of her journey and trust that the future she was building would be everything she had dreamed of. The rest of the semester flew by, and Anna poured herself into her studies and preparing for the internship. She spent hours researching the company, learning about its history, its values, and the work it did. Every step felt like a new opportunity, a new challenge, and she embraced it all with the same determination she had always shown. The day of the internship interview arrived, and Anna was ready. She walked into the office with her head held high, her confidence shining through. She knew that she had already proved to herself that she was capable of anything, and now it was time to show the world. The interview went well, and by the end of the week, Anna received an official offer for the internship position. She had done it. She had taken the leap, and now, her future was in her hands. The weeks following Anna's internship offer were filled with a sense of purpose and excitement. The opportunity she had been given was nothing short of a dream come true, and now she was preparing for the next chapter of her journey. She spent countless hours preparing for the internship, researching the company, and learning as much as she could about the industry she was about to step into. The anxiety that had once held her back was replaced by a quiet confidence. She knew she had earned this, and she was ready to face whatever challenges came her way. As the first day of the internship approached, Anna couldn't help but feel a mixture of nervousness and anticipation. She was about to step into a professional world, one that was vastly different from the classrooms she had grown accustomed to. There was a part of her that wondered if she was truly ready, if she could keep up with the pace, the expectations, and the demands of her new role. But she pushed those thoughts aside. She had faced worse challenges before, this was just the next step in her journey. The morning of her first day, Anna woke up early. She spent extra time making sure she was prepared, her outfit neat and professional, her bag packed with all the materials she needed for the day. As she stood in front of the mirror, she took a deep breath. This was it. The moment she had worked so hard for. As she walked into the office building, the sense of uncertainty crept back, but it was quickly replaced with excitement. The building was tall, its glass walls reflecting the morning sunlight. It was the kind of place she had always dreamed of working in. She entered the lobby, her heels clicking on the polished floor, and checked in with the receptionist. She was given a visitor's badge and led to the elevator. As the elevator doors closed, Anna felt a slight flutter in her chest. She was about to enter a world that had once felt out of reach, and she couldn't help but wonder if she was truly ready. The doors opened, and she stepped out onto the floor where she would be working. She was greeted by her supervisor, a warm, professional woman named Rachel, who introduced her to the team. Rachel was kind and encouraging, immediately making Anna feel at ease. The other employees were friendly, and although Anna still felt a bit like an outsider, she could sense that they respected her and were excited to have her on board. The first day passed in a blur. Anna was introduced to various departments and shown how the company operated. She took notes, asked questions, and observed, eager to learn as much as she could. There were moments when she felt overwhelmed, when the pace seemed too fast, but she reminded herself that she had earned this. She belonged here. As the days went by, Anna's confidence continued to grow. She took on more responsibilities, working on various projects and contributing her ideas. She was given tasks that challenged her, pushed her to think critically, and forced her to grow. There were moments of frustration, but each time she faced a challenge, she overcame it, proving to herself that she was capable of more than she had ever imagined. She quickly became known for her work ethic and her determination. People in the office began to notice her dedication, and soon, she was being trusted with more important projects. Her supervisor, Rachel, was impressed with how quickly Anna had adapted to the fast-paced environment and how much she had contributed in such a short amount of time. As Anna continued to excel in her internship, she received positive feedback from her colleagues and supervisors. She was learning not just the technical skills of the job but also the soft skills, how to communicate effectively, how to collaborate with a team, and how to navigate the complexities of a professional environment. The internship was becoming everything she had hoped for and more. But there were still moments of doubt. As Anna gained confidence in her work, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was still playing catch-up. She sometimes felt like she was walking on a tightrope, constantly trying to prove herself, trying to show that she deserved to be there. It was during one of these moments that Rachel called her into her office for a one-on-one meeting. Anna walked in, her stomach twisting with nerves, unsure of what to expect. Rachel smiled warmly as she gestured for Anna to sit. "I just wanted to take a moment to tell you how impressed I am with your work," Rachel said. "You've come a long way in such a short amount of time, and you've really shown us what you're capable of." Anna felt a wave of relief wash over her. She had been working so hard, and to hear such praise meant more than she could express. "Thank you, Rachel," Anna said, her voice soft. "I'm just doing my best." "Well, your best is more than enough," Rachel replied with a smile. "I see so much potential in you, Anna. You've got a future here if you want it." The words took Anna by surprise. "You mean, like a full-time position?" she asked. Rachel nodded. "Yes, once you finish the internship, there's definitely a place for you here. But that's up to you. You've shown us what you're capable of. Now, it's just about deciding where you want to take it." Anna sat back, the weight of Rachel's words settling in. It was everything she had dreamed of, everything she had worked for. The opportunity was within her reach, but she still had a decision to make. She realized that she had already made it, in a way. She had come so far, and this was just the beginning. The future was bright, and Anna was ready for whatever came next. The internship wasn't just a job, it was the next step in her journey, and she was ready to step forward into it with everything she had. As Anna settled into the rhythm of her internship, she couldn't help but reflect on how much she had grown. The young woman who had walked into Rose Hill Academy all those months ago, uncertain of herself and afraid to take risks, had transformed into someone capable, confident, and ready to take on the world. Her first few weeks in the internship had been a whirlwind of new tasks, challenges, and learning opportunities, but now she was starting to find her stride. She had built solid relationships with her colleagues, gained the respect of her supervisors, and proven to herself that she belonged in this fast-paced, demanding environment. The work itself was rewarding. She had been involved in several high-profile projects, contributing ideas and solutions that were beginning to have a real impact on the company. The once overwhelming feeling of being the new person had faded, and Anna now found herself taking the lead on a few smaller tasks, coordinating efforts and driving results. Yet, despite her success, she still found herself struggling with one thing: imposter syndrome. Despite all the positive feedback and accomplishments, there were moments when Anna felt like she didn't truly deserve to be there, like she was somehow faking it, like she wasn't quite as capable as everyone thought she was. She had worked so hard to get here, and yet, every time she was handed a new responsibility, a part of her was afraid of failing. It wasn't something she would easily admit, not even to Luke. But she couldn't shake the feeling that, deep down, she wasn't fully equipped to succeed. The pressure to keep proving herself weighed heavily on her, especially as she neared the end of her internship. She couldn't help but wonder, what would happen when it was over? Would she be offered a full-time position? Would she be able to maintain the high standards she had set for herself? One evening, as Anna was sitting at her desk reviewing a report, her phone buzzed with a message from Luke. She opened it and read, "Hey, I know you're probably swamped, but I just wanted to remind you how amazing you are. You've come so far, and I'm so proud of you. Don't let your doubts hold you back. You've got this." Anna smiled as she read his words. She had heard them from him countless times, but tonight, they felt like exactly what she needed to hear. He was right. She had come so far. And despite the doubts, she had proven herself time and time again. She wasn't the same girl who had walked through the gates of Rose Hill Academy. She wasn't even the same person who had first stepped into this internship. She had changed. She had grown. And she had the strength to face whatever challenges came next. That night, Anna decided to take a step back. She needed to remind herself of everything she had already accomplished. She thought back to the moment when she first learned she had been accepted to college, the way she had fought through her fear and doubt to make it this far. She remembered how Ethan had believed in her when no one else did, and how that belief had sparked a fire in her that carried her through the darkest times. She had worked hard to earn this opportunity, and she wasn't going to let fear hold her back now. The next morning, Anna walked into the office with a renewed sense of determination. She was ready. She had proven her worth over and over again, and she wasn't about to stop now. She tackled the tasks in front of her with a calm confidence, taking charge when needed and offering solutions when problems arose. Her team was starting to look to her for guidance, and that was all the validation she needed. By the time her internship was nearing its end, Anna had established herself as a reliable and valuable team member. She had not only completed her work, but she had exceeded expectations. And as the final days of the internship approached, she found herself reflecting on everything she had learned. More than the technical skills, it was the soft skills, how to collaborate, communicate, and contribute meaningfully to a team, that she valued the most. The internship had given her much more than just work experience. It had given her the confidence to trust herself, to take risks, and to believe in her own abilities. One day, as Anna was finishing up her last assignment, Rachel, her supervisor, called her into her office. Anna entered with a mixture of excitement and nerves. She knew that her performance had been stellar, but she couldn't help but wonder what Rachel was about to say. "Anna," Rachel began, her tone warm and appreciative, "I just wanted to take a moment to tell you how impressed I've been with your work over the past few months. You've really grown into a key member of the team, and I've seen your potential. I think you have a bright future ahead of you." Anna's heart swelled with pride, but Rachel wasn't finished. "I want to offer you a full-time position with us once you graduate. We believe in you, Anna, and I know you'll continue to excel here." Anna's breath caught in her throat. A full-time position? She had worked so hard to get to this point, and now, everything she had dreamed of was within her reach. She felt tears welling up in her eyes, but she quickly wiped them away. "I don't know what to say," Anna replied, her voice thick with emotion. "You don't have to say anything right now," Rachel said with a smile. "Just know that we're excited about the future, and we'd love for you to be part of it." As Anna walked out of Rachel's office, she felt like she was walking on air. Everything she had worked for, the late nights, the challenges, the self-doubt, had led her to this moment. She had proved to herself that she could not only survive in this world but thrive. The future was no longer a distant dream, it was hers to shape, and she was ready for whatever came next. As Anna stood outside the building where she had just signed her full-time offer with the company, a mix of emotions washed over her. The feeling of accomplishment was overwhelming, yet there was an odd sense of uncertainty lingering in the back of her mind. She had worked so hard for this moment, and now, as she stood on the threshold of this new chapter, it almost felt surreal. The internship had been a testing ground, a place where she had not only proven her skills but had also learned to trust herself in a world that often felt foreign. And now, she had earned a permanent place in that world. The transition from being the intern to becoming a full-time employee was a huge shift. As much as she had grown during her time there, the reality of the commitment she had just made began to sink in. No longer would she be the new kid, the one who was figuring things out. Now, the expectations were higher. She had to keep performing at her best, day in and day out. And that thought, while motivating, also felt heavy. The company had recognized her potential, and now it was up to her to fulfill it. As she walked down the street, the cool breeze brushing against her face, Anna's mind wandered back to the early days of her college career. She remembered the self-doubt, the feeling of being an outsider, and the uncertainty about her place in this world. She had been so unsure of herself back then, questioning if she was really meant to be in the spaces she found herself in. But now, as she looked back, she realized how far she had come. The girl who had walked into Rose Hill Academy, unsure of her abilities and terrified of failure, was now a confident young woman, with a bright future ahead of her. The thought made her smile, but it was quickly replaced by a deeper reflection. There had been so many people who had helped her along the way. Ethan, of course, who had given her the chance to believe in herself, and Luke, who had been there every step of the way, offering encouragement and support. Without their belief in her, Anna wasn't sure if she would have made it this far. But now, it was her turn. She had to believe in herself, too. As Anna returned to her apartment that evening, she felt the weight of the day settle into her bones. She had signed a full-time offer, yes, but that didn't mean her work was over. The next phase of her journey was just beginning, and there would be challenges along the way. That night, as she sat at her desk, staring at her laptop screen, she reflected on the path that had led her to this moment. There were so many small victories along the way, moments when she had doubted herself but pushed through, moments when she had felt completely overwhelmed but found the strength to keep going. And every one of those moments had brought her to where she was now. Anna had come to realize that success wasn't just about the accolades, the offers, or the recognition. It was about the journey. It was about the quiet determination that had carried her through the hardest days, the willingness to learn from mistakes, and the courage to take risks even when she was afraid. As she moved forward into this next phase, she promised herself that she would never forget that. The next morning, she arrived at the office early, determined to begin this new chapter with energy and focus. The office was bustling with activity as usual, but today, there was a new sense of purpose behind Anna's steps. She had earned her place here, and now it was time to prove that she could not only meet but exceed the expectations that came with this new role. Over the following months, Anna settled into her new position, learning even more, taking on bigger projects, and growing in ways she hadn't anticipated. There were still challenges, still moments of self-doubt, but now, she faced them with a quiet strength. She had already proved to herself that she was capable, and that belief carried her through the tough days. One afternoon, as she was finishing up a presentation for a new client, Rachel, her supervisor, came by to check in. "How are you feeling?" Rachel asked, leaning against the doorframe of Anna's office. Anna smiled, feeling a sense of pride. "I'm feeling good," she said. "It's been a lot to take on, but I'm ready for it." Rachel nodded, her expression thoughtful. "You've come a long way since your first day here. You've really stepped up, Anna. I'm proud of you." Those words, simple as they were, carried weight. Anna had never been one to seek praise, but hearing it from Rachel meant the world to her. It was validation that all her hard work, all the nights spent worrying if she was good enough, had paid off. But it also reminded her of something important. She was never in this alone. She had people who believed in her, and it was their belief, combined with her own, that had gotten her to this point. As the months went on, Anna continued to thrive in her role. The internship was no longer just an experience, it had become the foundation of her career. She had found her place in the company, and the company had found a valuable team member in her. And as she stood in front of the mirror one morning, ready to start another day at work, she couldn't help but smile at the woman she had become. She wasn't the same person who had arrived at Rose Hill Academy so many months ago. She had evolved. She had learned. And most importantly, she had believed in herself when it mattered most. And as she took the next steps toward her future, she knew that this was only the beginning. As the months passed, Anna settled into a comfortable rhythm in her full-time role at the company. The initial excitement of landing the internship had now turned into the satisfaction of being an integral part of the team. She had proven herself in countless ways, and every day, she found new challenges that allowed her to grow even further. Her confidence continued to build, and with it, the respect of her colleagues. However, there were still moments when the old fears crept back into her mind. She would sometimes wonder if she was truly cut out for this life. The professional world she had stepped into felt like a dream, one that she was still trying to fully embrace. Despite the steady progress, the question always lingered, what if this was all too much? But with each passing week, Anna became more certain that this life was where she belonged. She had put in the hard work to get here, and it had paid off. It wasn't just the job, though. It was the person she had become along the way. A few months into her full-time role, the company began discussing a major new project. It was a big opportunity, one that would require all hands on deck. Anna's team was tasked with developing a strategy for launching the project, and the scope of the work was enormous. At first, the weight of the project seemed daunting, even overwhelming. There were moments when Anna wondered how they would ever pull it all together, but she had learned something valuable in the past few months: how to break down big challenges into manageable steps. Anna dove into the work with determination, leading parts of the project and collaborating closely with her colleagues. Her leadership skills had sharpened during her internship, and now, she was starting to take on more responsibility. As she began to oversee parts of the strategy, she relied on the lessons she had learned over the past year. Stay organized, communicate clearly, and keep pushing through obstacles. Her role quickly became vital to the success of the project, and her team began to look to her for guidance. In one of their brainstorming sessions, Anna suggested a new approach that no one had considered. At first, there was some hesitation, but after further discussion, her idea was adopted. It was a small victory, but it gave Anna the confidence she needed to keep moving forward. As the project continued to unfold, Anna noticed that her self-doubt had begun to fade. The more she trusted herself and her abilities, the more others did as well. She was becoming a true leader, not just in title, but in the way her colleagues relied on her and respected her. Even Rachel, her supervisor, began to take notice of how much Anna had grown. One afternoon, Rachel called her into her office. As Anna walked in, her stomach flipped with the usual nervousness, but she quickly reminded herself that she was ready. Rachel smiled warmly as she gestured for Anna to sit. "Anna," Rachel began, "I wanted to take a moment to tell you how impressed I am. You've grown so much in such a short time, and you're really stepping up as a leader. Your insights on the project have been invaluable, and your ability to stay calm under pressure has made a huge difference to the team." Anna felt a surge of pride at Rachel's words. She had worked so hard to get here, and to hear such praise from someone she respected so much meant the world. "Thank you," Anna said, her voice filled with gratitude. "I couldn't have done it without the support of the team." Rachel nodded, her expression thoughtful. "That's exactly the point. You've really taken on the role of a leader, and I want to make sure you continue growing in that direction." Anna felt her heart race. Was this it? Was Rachel about to offer her more responsibility? "We have an opening for a lead position in the next phase of the project," Rachel continued. "I think you're the perfect fit for the role. If you're ready, I'd love for you to step up and take charge." Anna's heart skipped a beat. The offer was everything she had hoped for, but it also felt like the next level of commitment, a much bigger challenge. She took a deep breath, letting the reality of the situation settle in. This was a pivotal moment. She had worked so hard to get here, and now, the opportunity to truly lead was within her reach. "I'm ready," Anna said, her voice steady. "I'll take on the role." Rachel smiled. "I knew you would. You're going to do great things, Anna." As Anna left Rachel's office, she felt a wave of excitement and fear wash over her. This was the moment she had been working for, the moment she had been waiting for. It was her time to truly step into the leadership role she had always dreamed of. The following weeks were a whirlwind of preparation and strategy. Anna threw herself into the new responsibilities with everything she had. She worked late into the evenings, collaborating with her team, brainstorming ideas, and making sure everything was falling into place. The pressure was immense, but for the first time, Anna felt like she was in control. She wasn't just managing the work, she was leading it, guiding her team toward a common goal. The project came to fruition, and the launch was a resounding success. Anna stood in the office that day, watching the result of all their hard work come to life. She knew that she had been instrumental in making it happen, and that knowledge filled her with an immense sense of pride. As the project was celebrated, Anna realized that this was only the beginning. She had come so far, but now, she was ready for even more. The journey was far from over, and she was determined to keep pushing forward, to continue learning, leading, and proving that she belonged in this world she had fought so hard to be part of. As Anna stood before the large conference room window, watching the city below, she couldn't help but reflect on how much her life had changed. It felt like just yesterday she was unsure of herself, struggling to fit in, constantly second-guessing her abilities. But now, as she prepared to oversee one of the most important presentations of her career so far, she realized how far she had come. The decision to accept the leadership role in the project had been a pivotal one. The responsibility had weighed on her at first, but with each passing day, she became more comfortable in her role. She had learned to trust herself, to take the lead, and to inspire her team. This was her moment. It had taken months of hard work, sleepless nights, and countless hours of strategizing and problem-solving, but now it was all coming together. The team had put in everything they had, and the company was counting on them to deliver. Anna felt a rush of pride as she thought about how much everyone had grown. She had watched her colleagues step up, take ownership of their tasks, and deliver results. She had watched them grow just as she had. It wasn't just the success of the project that mattered to Anna, it was the way the team had come together, how they had supported each other, and how they had worked toward a common goal. As she walked into the conference room to join the rest of the team, she could feel the energy in the air. Everyone was buzzing with excitement and nerves. This presentation would make or break the entire project, and Anna was at the helm. Rachel, her supervisor, had been incredibly supportive throughout the process. As Anna took her seat at the head of the table, Rachel gave her an encouraging smile. "You've got this, Anna," she said quietly, before the meeting officially began. Anna smiled back, taking a deep breath. She wasn't just here because of her skills, she was here because of her leadership. She had earned this role, and she was ready to prove it. The presentation began, and as Anna took the lead, she could feel the weight of the moment. Her voice was steady, her vision clear. She outlined the strategy, spoke about the challenges they had overcome, and highlighted the innovative solutions the team had implemented. As she spoke, she could see the approval in the faces of the executives sitting around the table. They were engaged, nodding along as she explained the details of the project. Anna had done this before, in smaller meetings, but this was different. This was a room full of high-level decision-makers, and they were looking to her for answers. As she walked through the final details of the presentation, Anna felt a sense of calm settle over her. She had prepared for this moment for weeks, and now, she knew exactly what needed to be said. When the presentation concluded, the room was silent for a moment. Anna held her breath, waiting for feedback. Then, one of the senior executives spoke up. "Impressive," he said, his tone approving. "The strategy is well thought out, and the execution plan is solid. This is exactly what we need to move forward." Anna felt a wave of relief wash over her. It wasn't just the approval that mattered, it was the recognition that the hard work had paid off. The project was moving forward, and it was going to be a success. After the meeting, Rachel walked over to Anna and gave her a congratulatory hug. "I knew you could do it," she said warmly. "You've shown everyone what you're capable of." Anna smiled, her heart swelling with pride. "We did it together," she replied. "I couldn't have done it without the team." As the days passed, the project continued to move ahead smoothly. The company began to see the impact of the strategy, and the team received praise for their work. Anna felt a deep sense of accomplishment, knowing that she had played a key role in the success of the project. But more than that, she felt a newfound confidence in herself. She had proven that she was capable of leading, of making tough decisions, and of inspiring a team to achieve their best work. The recognition wasn't just about the project, it was about the person she had become. As Anna walked through the office one afternoon, she overheard two colleagues talking about the project. "Anna really stepped up, didn't she?" one of them said. "She's a natural leader. It's impressive how she managed the entire project." Anna smiled to herself as she heard the praise. She had worked so hard to get here, and to hear others acknowledge her leadership was the validation she had been looking for. But she didn't need the recognition anymore. She had found something more valuable, a deep belief in herself and her ability to take on whatever challenges came her way. A few weeks later, as she was preparing for another round of presentations with senior management, Rachel approached her again. "I wanted to let you know," Rachel began, "that the higher-ups have been really impressed with your work. We're recommending you for a promotion." Anna's heart skipped a beat. A promotion? This was everything she had hoped for. "Really?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Yes," Rachel said with a proud smile. "Your hard work and leadership have not gone unnoticed. You've earned this, Anna." In that moment, Anna realized that the journey she had been on had changed her in ways she couldn't have imagined. The girl who had once been uncertain, unsure of her place in the world, was now a leader in her own right, someone who had earned respect and recognition. The future was wide open before her, full of possibilities. And Anna was ready to take it all on, knowing that she had the strength, the skills, and the confidence to make the most of every opportunity that came her way. As Anna sat in her office, looking out over the city skyline, she couldn't help but reflect on how much had changed. It had been a few years since she first started her journey at Rose Hill Academy, uncertain and unsure of herself. She had fought through challenges, doubt, and fear, and now, she was sitting at the top of her game, a respected leader in her company. The promotion had come through, and with it, a new level of responsibility and respect. She had not only earned the promotion but had earned the confidence of her team, her peers, and herself. The growth she had experienced wasn't just in her career, it was in herself. She had gone from a young woman filled with uncertainty to a confident, capable leader. She had faced the challenges head-on, refused to let fear control her, and pushed herself to be better every day. Looking back at the journey, Anna realized how crucial the support she received had been, first from Ethan, who had believed in her when no one else did, and from Luke, who had been her rock through every step of the way. They had helped her see her potential when she couldn't see it herself. Their belief had given her the strength to keep going, even when things were at their hardest. But the most important lesson she had learned was the power of believing in herself. It wasn't about waiting for others to tell her she was good enough, it was about trusting that she could handle whatever came her way. And with that belief, she had built a career, a life, and a future that she could be proud of. Now, as she prepared to lead her team through another new project, Anna felt a deep sense of purpose. She had learned to embrace the challenges, to see them as opportunities rather than obstacles. She knew that there would always be challenges ahead, but she was ready for them. This was her moment, not just professionally, but personally. She had grown in ways she never imagined, and the future felt limitless. As Anna walked into the meeting room, she looked around at her team, her colleagues, and felt a deep sense of pride. They were a group of talented, dedicated individuals who had come together to create something remarkable. And Anna had been a part of that. She was no longer the girl who doubted herself, the girl who wondered if she belonged. She was a leader, someone who inspired others to be their best, someone who believed that anything was possible with hard work and determination. The meeting began, and as Anna led the discussion, she felt a sense of calm that she had never felt before. She knew exactly what needed to be done, and she was ready to guide her team through the next steps. This was just another challenge in a long line of challenges she had overcome. But it wasn't just about the work, it was about the journey. It was about how far she had come, how much she had learned, and how much she had grown. And as the meeting wrapped up, Anna took a moment to reflect on everything she had achieved. She had come so far from the girl who walked into Rose Hill Academy all those years ago. She had proven herself, not just to others but to herself. The future was wide open, and Anna was ready for whatever came next. She had learned that success wasn't just about the destination, it was about the journey, about the growth, the challenges, and the triumphs along the way. And with that knowledge, she walked out of the meeting room, ready to take on whatever the future held, knowing that no matter what happened, she had the strength, the drive, and the belief in herself to make it.